So, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you've joined us, and this is our fifth session on peace. I'm Diane Tillman, and I worked as a school psych for 23 years, and then I resigned from my job to volunteer to write books on living values education. And it was an interesting choice. But it's been a fabulous adventure. I've traveled to 30 countries before Zoom to do workshops and trainings all over the world. And it's been lovely. I've trained educators in Austria and in Nigeria, street children trainings in Indonesia and Vietnam. The Indonesia one was very interesting because we were sort of in a very rural area with rice fields. And one of the people that was coming to the training to learn how to teach Living Values program for street children was a former street child. So, and then refugee camps in Thailand. And currently, I'm rewriting the refugee materials because it looks like we'll be doing a very large refugee camp in the north of Kenya, which will be very, very interesting. It's rather heartbreaking. There's 200,000 people. Some of you have probably heard about the Lost Boys from Sudan. So many of them are children from Sudan, from nearby countries, children affected very much by war, child soldiers, those that survived. So we're seeing if we can get living values into that camp. They very, very much want it. Living values is used as a drug and crime prevention program on an island, a series of islands called the Maldives. And it's used in a couple of schools in the USA and by many teachers all around the world. We're a nonprofit organization, and all of our values units are online free of charge. So if you ever want to study the values a little more intensely, you can become a Living Values facilitator with an online distance course, or you can just study the values and enjoy them. You can just go to schools, and then there's all the materials, and you can study one at a time and enjoy them. It's been a delight to meet some of you. It's been a delight to meet all of you that I've met. And this is our fifth session. So this will be the last session on peace. And then in the fall, we're going to do one more unit, and that is on caring for the earth and our oceans. I think I'm very concerned about the environment, and I imagine you might be too, and you might be a little concerned about peace. And so today for our last session, I thought I would look at the value of peace. And some of you may have been with us for the first session. And in the first session, what we did is you mind map peace. I was your facilitator, and you gave me all the answers. And I have this folded up. And so one of the things you looked at was what happens when there's peace and what happens when there's peacefulness. And we looked at the self, we looked at our relationships with others, and what happens at schools, what happens with countries, what happens in the world, and the huge differences that exist when there's peace versus when there's violence. The amount of well-being and positive things that happen, the feeling of being happy, of being content, being able to be at your best because there's support around you, versus a lot of anxiety and tension when people are being very negative and people are fighting. And so I am going to just talk about peace as a value. And I'd like you to choose another one. Would all of you like to say, if you were going to live your life with two values, and I assume you're all here because you love peace and want a better world, what would be your other value? Or it may not be peace, but what are two values that you would like to live your life with, and that you feel the whole world would benefit by if there were those two qualities in the world? Love and respect. Respect, thank you. Community, wonderful, thank you, Brianna. Empathy, honesty, courage, gratitude, equality, fantastic. You know, each one of the qualities you've just named, each one of the values you've just named are part of a peaceful world. And it's this part of supporting each other and our world. We only have one world. So, peace is a value as an individual I really cherish in my life, because when there's a difficult situation and when there's a problem, I'll say, okay, what am I going to do? If you're into peace, revenge isn't an option. So I choose peace, or I choose respect, or I choose community, or I choose empathy, compassion, gratitude. So equality. So all those choices help you stay positive inside. And inside the self, there's this natural thing that happens. When you're in tune with your own values, there's a feeling of harmony inside and a feeling of happiness. And you create circles of peace and compassion around you. And your whole life, you're gathering those things around you. And in your whole life, you're making choices just like you make them today. But as you showed in this mind map, there's incredible differences with choices. So, for inner peace, what kinds of things help you have inner peace? We've discussed some of these before, so I'm just going to touch on it very lightly. What helps with your inner peace? Anyone? Maybe meditation, playing piano. Wonderful, Brianna. Playing a sport. Wonderful, Angel. Listening to music, singing. Fabulous. Singing really helps with happiness too, and helps us release our feelings. Beautiful. So all those things, doing the things that you love, that watching airplane videos. Wonderful. So you feel very free, I would imagine, watching the airplane videos. That's great. One of my favorites is the one going over the islands in a beautiful country. Okay, great. So let's look at family. Peaceful families, angry families. So if we're choosing peace, we're choosing positive communication. What types of things do you think helps families be happy, be peaceful? Open communication, another response, communication. Thank you. Respect for one another. Fabulous, Polly. Okay, great. Actively communicating your needs. Terrific. I remember once I was feeling very insecure. I was going to a very fancy party, and I was a young lady, and I wasn't used to going to fancy parties. And so I had a friend that I was going with. And I said, I'm feeling really insecure. And he said, you don't need to feel insecure. You're very, you look beautiful, da 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 da. And I said, you know, so I told him what I need. I said, I don't need you to reassure me. What I need you to do is just hug me and pat me on the back and listen to me while I whine and tell you what I'm afraid of. I said, and then I'll feel better and I'll start complaining. So it's very interesting to ask for what you need, whether it's someone to listen to you or to give you a hug or to spend some time with you or whatever it is. But the currencies of good relationships with friends and families are gratitude, appreciation, kindness, and one of you mentioned respect. So important. There was once a study of married couples, not too long ago, only about 10 years ago. And they always thought that when people rarely communicated about what was bothering them, that they did better. And when they studied angry couples versus happy, peaceful couples, what they found is that the happy, peaceful couples communicated very frequently about little things. And the angry couples almost never communicated about needs. And so they would fight about it. But those that communicated little things, it worked. So in communication, I feel when you because. So I feel really uncomfortable, or I feel a little upset, or I feel a little hurt, or my feelings are feeling a little hurt when you da da da. So the I message is so helpful. Or you can say, I'm so happy that we're going to this. I really appreciate that you. It was so kind of you, with family or with friends. So, any other things that you think help with family and friends, other than choosing kind friends if you want peace? I know there was an interesting thing that happened years ago, and it was a boy that grew up and he'd never been to the beach before. And somebody took him to the beach and he didn't know what to do. So he just stood there and watched everybody, but he didn't get to play. So I'd also say play with family. Get your family to play or get your friends to play. And with play, just make sure that you love it and that it's humanizing. If you want peace, then in terms of professions, in terms of the types of things you're doing, Are they constructive? Are they humanizing? Are they making the world a better place? And enjoy them, like with sports or with singing or with playing piano. All those things are gorgeous. They contribute beauty to the world, and beauty is really important. So, okay. So, I'm going to tell you some stories about conflict. Yes, quality time with those you care about is really peaceful and important for many. It gives you a sense of well-being. Thank you, Dana. Yeah, that was beautiful. It's really so important to have that time of feeling a sense of belonging and community, isn't it? Okay, conflict resolution. I'm going to talk about conflict resolution, and I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. In one of the refugee camps that I worked at, the first one that I worked at, that I did volunteer, but we did a 9-day training with the teachers. And then I went back after a year and I asked these 36 teachers how they did, what happened with the kids. And this was in a Karen refugee camp, and we were working in 2 camps, and there was 11,000 people. There was only 60 teachers. And much to our surprise, the teachers told us that 90 to 100% of the kids had stopped fighting. Before that, they fought very frequently. And much to my surprise, what they said is that the children who had done living values education, that they would go up to the other children and they would say, you don't need to fight. You can solve your problems. Would you like us to help? Nobody asked them to do that. But what was happening is that the kids were choosing peace. And so they'd go up to the other ones because people were getting hurt, because there was a lot of anger and upset, and they weren't having that in their lives anymore. And so they started doing this. So what are the components in conflict resolution? So the kids would ask 3 questions. They say, you don't need to fight. You can solve your problems. Do you want us to help? What's going on and how do you feel? So, how do you feel? What do you want to stop happening? What do you want to happen instead? So, these are the 3 main questions. How do you feel? What do you not want to happen? What do you want to happen instead? And so the kids would act as a conflict resolution manager, a peer one, for the other 2 kids. And so they would listen to them. And this thing of listening is really important because if you can listen to people, very often, if they're having a conflict, even if the conflict is with you, you can say, what's happening with you? So if somebody's starting to be grumpy, if someone's starting to be angry, if someone's starting to be rude, who isn't usually rude, you can say, hey, what's happening? The act of listening allows people to go from anger down into the hurt or fear. And then they could go down into their own natural positive emotions. We talked a little bit last session how anger is always a secondary response, but underneath it is always fear or hurt or shame or an unmet need. But the core of everyone is is peaceful. The core of everyone is the desire for peace. So sometimes the model of conflict resolution, those three questions, with them listening back and forth to each other, or someone facilitating that back and forth with each other. But you can also do it yourself with another person. Because when you listen to another person, you're giving respect. So when they get respect, there can be trust, and they can tell you what's going on. And they move away from anger and into the fear or hurt. And with respect and kindness, they will go back down to how they normally are naturally, back to their kindness. But it's also a wonderful model for you sticking up for yourself if someone's bullying you, or if someone's that you think is a friend is being rude to you. You can say, hey, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable with what's going on. What's happening with you? And you're actually doing conflict resolution with them in a very informal way. A lot of people, what do people do when they're upset or when they start to talk to someone when they're not okay? They can get angry at people, they can accuse people, they can blame. And so if you don't bite the bait, if you don't bite the bait, and you can just stay in your power and your peace and your self-respect and know that they're having a problem, then you can see how it goes. You can see if they are who you thought you are. They are who you thought they were. So those are some of the things I wanted to share about that. And I think I'd like to say, if you want peace, then it's important to look at other values. Like, one of the most important values for an entire society is to do something that's constructive for each other and to be honest. Can any of you think of some of the effects of corruption in the world right now? What happens when there's corruption? One of you, there's chaos. Absolutely. There's wars. There's poverty, civil unrest, destruction. You guys are really amazing. Did you know that? Protests, strikes, and wonderful. Decrease in unity. You guys are so on target. It's just beautiful. And why is there corruption? People are selfish. They want more for them. And, some people, they want to be richer and richer and richer. And what we're seeing, there's unbridled greed. Karen, absolutely. Thank you. They say that there's enough for man's needs, but not enough for man's greed. So some people are so greedy that they want everything. And in doing that, they end up taking from the poor. And so corruption is actually a huge, corruption and violence are probably two of the worst things in the world right now, because with corruption, every time you take something that is not yours, you're depriving other people. And when you deprive them, there will be unrest. They will be marginalized. They won't have what they need. And we're seeing horrible examples in the world right now of unbridled corruption and greed, which is literally depriving people of food, of healthcare, of education. Yes. So we live in an interesting time. But humanity has created this problem jointly. So we seem to be devolving in recent years. But if we've gone in this direction, we can easily go in this direction. So living values education, it is an education. And as Aristotle once said, if there is education, education without a heart is no education at all. And so with values, what you're doing is you're opening yourself up to your heart. You're opening yourself up to humanity, and you're creating goodness around you, and it will only grow. So I'm just delighted that you young people are all working for a positive world, and each one of you is important. So trust your values, trust your goodness, and communicate. Choose kind friends, choose activities that are humanizing rather than dehumanizing. Choose a profession as you continue your education and think about ways that you can benefit the world so that you can do something that you love and help others at the same time. That's one of the great privileges of life. One more thing. With strangers, sometimes you may meet a stranger that's a little bit disrespectful or rude, or you may have someone, a relative that is like that, or somebody else's relatives that are like that. And so my only suggestion for that is increase your feeling of power and self-respect inside when that happens, and stay peaceful inside. And you may want to say something, but don't engage in a conflict. When people are angry, they feed off of anger. So don't engage. I may have told you, but I had somebody try to engage me a few months ago. And so they were saying some pretty amazing things and telling me I would really be sorry if such and such a thing didn't happen. And I just stayed very peaceful. And I looked at them when they were done and I said, I see things differently. And everyone around us immediately was very supportive and switched the conversation for me. Oh, one more thing. We talked a little bit about bullying the other day. And we talked about how very often when someone is being bullied, that there aren't any adults around. So when someone's being bullied, if a group of people or even one person can go up and say, hey, come on, don't listen to her, don't listen to him. Come on, it's no fun listening to this. Hey, let's go. This is totally uncool. So you can walk up to the person that's being bullied and simply say something to get them away from it so that they feel support. And so there isn't a group of kids listening to bullying because the bully, or I should say the person bullying, will feel more powerful if people are standing there and listening. It would be really good if someone is being bullied that you know, for several of you to go up together and be supportive of the person who's being a target. And if you think that the bully has a tendency to want to change, then you suspect that, then you can actually add another element to it. You can actually add something like, come on, it looks like Pam is being grumpy today. Maybe she'll be nicer tomorrow. So come on, let's get out of here. It looks like Pam's being grumpy today. Maybe she'll be nicer tomorrow. So what you're doing then is you're not just supporting the target, but you're giving a little bit of something to the bully, saying, we're not against you. You can change. When you're kind, this won't be, you won't feel, you'll feel a sense of belonging too. Or, come on, it's no fun listening to this. It looks like Mac isn't his usual self today. So you could try that a couple of times. And if there's a group of you, um, it feels a lot better. So that you go up, you say something, you help the target move away. And there's this very subtle invite to someone. And the bullying will dramatically decrease. So good luck with that. But if you're ever bullied individually, of course, say something assertive. Don't be passive, don't be aggressive, but say something assertive. Not cool, guys. I'm out of here. Hey, this isn't the conversation I wanted to have, or a benevolent assertion. You know, I don't believe in things like that. Everyone is my family. I'm really glad you came today. So thank you for being peacemakers. And I'm going to do a screen share. Breathe in and let yourself be surrounded by peace. Let your feet relax and your shoulders and your arms. And breathe in peace and let out any tension. Let the light of peace completely surround you so that it begins to soak into you. It begins to soak into the body and let out any tension. And let your muscles tighten and then relax. Maybe imagine yourself in one of your very favorite peaceful places. Maybe in a meadow or garden. or by the ocean, or in a forest, by a river. Maybe in a backyard looking up at the stars. Maybe in another favorite place. Let yourself feel the peace and the safety of that place. Breathe in that light of peace, and that serenity. Wavelength of that peace. Become very silent and very long. So there's long rays of serenity extending out. And the peace around you is like this beautiful cloud. Breathe that in. And it's like every cell is being filled with peace and with light. One of us is naturally peaceful, and we're naturally full of love. I let the light of love surround me. I am a caring person. I care about the world and the people that inhabit our world. I care about our planet. And as I take in that love and that peace, a ray of strength accompanies. Energy of peace and love. This is the energy that I bring out. I fill myself with this energy for my own happiness, but also to create the world I want around me. Peace and love are incredibly powerful, and humankind is capable of so much beauty. We are creating a peaceful, caring world once again. I am a powerful person. There is great power in doing what is right, in doing what is good. And in that, there's great happiness. And as I experience this peace and love and power, I'm the first one to experience it. And then it will grow as it goes out to the world, perhaps silently, perhaps in words, perhaps in actions. Every thought and word and action that contributes to peace and caring and respect is never lost. It will continue to become even a more powerful part of me. And I will continue to create beauty and goodness and well-being and peace. In the world. I keep this beauty of peace and love and strength carefully inside me. And I know that it's catching. We are creating beauty once again. And now I wiggle my toes. And I move my shoulders. And I relax once again. And I bring my attention back to the place where I am. Okay, lovely people. Would anybody like to share anything before we sign off? Thank you again for joining Humanity Rising and myself. And it's been a pleasure to be with you. And I wish you all well. Oh, thank you, Angel. I'm glad you've really enjoyed. Thank you, Kobe. Thank you, Brianna, Brandon, Diana. All of you, thank you very much. Much love to you all and all good wishes. I can't even begin to tell you how wonderful you are and how valuable you are for the world. So please take good care of yourselves, huh?